Hello and welcome to Sparky Gravity. My name is Ben, and a couple weeks ago a YouTube buddy of mine named T the Writer asked me if I've been reading anything interesting lately since my last book review, and indeed I've read a number of good books, and I thought I would share those with you today. T also does book reviews, and I'll go ahead and link to his channel below in the somewhere in the description and maybe in the channel. Anyway, my book reviews tend to be very stylistic, and I don't really talk very much about the book in itself. I usually talk about the writing, and his books are really more of a thorough analysis, but I do warn you that it's not for those of a short attention span. His videos are quite long. They are quite thorough. So if you're looking for something different in a book review, I would suggest go checking out his channel. And so let's talk about what I've been reading. A fantasy book about an assassin named Farlander by Col Buchanan. It's sort of a little bit of a coming-of-age tale, but if you really don't like a coming-of-age tales, but you're very familiar with the genre, I would suggest this as a read, actually, because there is a little bit of a plot twist that kind of makes you go, I wonder what's going to happen in the next book. Jack McDevitt is a sci-fi book. Eternity Road is basically about a post-apocalyptic civilization where there are no books, because apparently during the apocalypse all books were burned, and so they don't really know anything about their previous history. It's a complete mystery, and in this particular version you have a couple historians that go on a journey trying to rediscover an ancient cache of books. Do they discover it? Are they disappointed? Do they meet adventure or dismise? Well, you can read the book. I thought it was pretty good. I also thought this one was decent, the Farlander book. So decent book. This book's not for everybody, though, this Jack McDevitt Eternity Road, just so you warned, but I liked it. This book I did not like. It's an older book called Nemesis, book 1 of Indigo by Louise Cooper, and it is basically a story. It's also sort of a post-apocalyptic story, but in the sense that apparently people got out of hand, the nature rose up, destroyed humankind, and in this post-apocalyptic book, basically nature locked mankind's nasty creations in a box, and basically this story is sort of about her opening Pandora's box. Because of its sort of cliche nature, in the sense that it's very much like the myth of Pandora's box, I didn't really like this book as much. But for those of you who are looking for something about sort of a Pandora's box, that's a book for you. I finished Elizabeth Moon's this is the last book in Elizabeth Moon's Vada series, Vada's Warfare series, featuring the character Karlar Vada. It is a military space opera, and I very much enjoyed reading Elizabeth Moon. I am trying to pick up her omnibus for her Sereno cycle right now, so I will definitely be reading more Elizabeth Moon. I read a young adult novel by Cinda Williams Chima called The Demon King, and it's alright. I don't think it's as good as Aragon. I don't think it's as good as Harry Potter. And my nephew, whose name is Grant, it fails the Grant test in the sense that there is a female character written by a female author who has to decide between several male suitors. And so, right there, that's the fail the Grant test. Is that does female authors write a romantic novel where the young woman character has to decide between several male suitors? And yes, that is in the book. But on the whole, it's basically a story about 3 different classes of people: the aristocracy that are supported by the wizards and basically act as a check and balances, as long as basically the outland tribes and clansmen who act as a check and balances, because at one time wizards got out of hand and basically almost destroyed the entire civilization. And so it's basically a story where they rediscover the Demon King's amulet, and who knows what's going to happen? Is all hell going to break loose yet again now that this ancient artifact is unearthed? Who knows? You'll have to read it to find out. As far as partially non-fiction, this is actually I actually picked this up because it is partially fiction and non-fiction. It's a collection of what-if stories eminent historians imagine what it might have been. It basically recounts several important turning points in history. Had Pontius Pilate. What if Pontius Pilate hadn't had Christ crucified? What if Abraham Lincoln didn't succeed in abolishing slavery? What if D-Day had failed? What if the Spanish Armada that tried to invade England? What if it hadn't been sunk, and Spain had invaded England? It basically goes over real world scenarios and imagines a different environment and what would have happened had something else, because a lot of turning points in history, came down to a single battle or a single decision to, execute Christ, for instance, or what if national banking hadn't taken off, that sort of thing. It's pretty good. I liked it. And okay, so next, I read the last 3 books in the novel of the 12 Houses books by Sharon Shinn, and it starts out with Mystic Rider. So the last 3 books of hers that I read were Darkmoot Defender, which I really enjoyed. The Reader and the Raelynx, which I thought was kind of a little bit cliche, but I thought it was very good. I liked it, which meant that I finished the last of the books, Sharon Shinn, which features sort of an off character, and this one actually turned out to be very good because it didn't really feature any of the main characters. But I very much enjoyed the 12 Houses novel by Sharon Shinn, and you can check those out. I also finished the last 2 books of the Quickening, which this is book 1, starts out by Fiona McIntosh, called Marin's Gift, and it basically features the spirit of Will Thirsk, who, well, what do I want to give away? I guess that would be the second book. Okay, so I'm going to read the blurb from back. Though barely a teenager, Will Thirsk must now assume the role he is destined for since his birth, commander of the Morgavian army, because his father was killed through treachery, as you find out. An awesome responsibility that calls him to the royal palace and the crown prince Clemus. Already cruel despot who delights in the suffering of others, Clemus enjoys forcing his new general to witness the depraved entertainments, but kindness to condemn the which, in the final agonizing hour, earns young Thirsk a miraculous bequest, while infaming the wrath of his liege lord. So yeah, Thirsk is basically enchanted, and it features how the book series features what happens to his life as he goes through his trials and tribulations being an enchanted person. I really liked it. It's very different. It's definitely kind of bends a lot of the fantasy rules, and yeah, so I would definitely recommend it. So the second book that I read was Blood and Memory, Fiona McIntosh, part of book 2 of The Quickening, and the final book of The Quickening, Bridge of Souls. So, and moving on, okay, The Iron Druids Chronicles by Kevin Hirth, part of so far a series. Me and my girlfriend read out loud to each other while we're cooking dinner, and so this book is called Hounded, and I really like this series because it's very funny, it's very humorous. I don't think he actually is a pretty good writer, interesting enough, but he actually sort of writes underneath his ability, which it kind of works actually, in the sense that like he keeps it light and airy, even though he's able to construct complex sentences and use big words. He just doesn't, that's just not how he rolls. And I guess it has one particular failing, which is that it features a lot of current events, which means that in 10 or 15 years this book series is going to be completely dated, and it has a lot of cultural pop references. That is in the nature of keeping the book a little bit light. It's, in a sense, urban fantasy, but so I guess you could put it along with urban fantasy as far as a genre, but I think that the druid character is different enough and it doesn't feature the same sort of things like a lot of like the urban fantasy right now with basically bounty hunters and something similar to like Twilight, which is also urban fantasy. You're not going to find that in that book. It's completely different. Read a sci-fi book by Robert J. Sawyer. Book title's Hominids. It basically features a parallel universe in which Neanderthals live instead of humans when we went through our evolutionary split. And so they end up creating a link between the two parallel universes because in an old mine shaft that is sort of secluded from cosmic rays, in one universe, in the Neanderthal universe, the Neanderthals create a quantum computer, and in the other universe, in the human universe, they build a neutrino detector. And it's all about what happens when the two worlds collide, when they become quantumly entangled, and all of a sudden a Neanderthal who is very technologically advanced pops out in the human world. And this is the book one of like his, what's it called? Neanderthal Parallax? I forget what the series is called. Yeah, it's called Neanderthal Parallax. And so I got Humans, and will be reading that. One of my favorite authors, I read Trudi Canavan's A Magician's Apprentice, which is basically oh, no, I got it backwards. Here we go. The Magician's Apprentice is the sequel to her Black Magician trilogy. What I read is Mission, which was a prequel. What book of the Traitors trilogy? Wait a minute. Am I getting it wrong? No, I was right in the first place. I read this one. It was good. I really like her. Moving on. Sci-fi, space opera, David Weber, Basilisk Station. Terrible cover art. I mean, this is like the most cheesiest cover arts of all by Baen Publishing. Get a better artist. Anyway, really liked the book. He really is probably one of the premier authors of this publishing company, and yeah, it's really good. It's a really good, strong female character lead, similar to Elizabeth Moon's Vada's War series. And it features a very strong female lead who's really fighting against sort of the inner corruption of her political and military system, just trying to do her job and protect her fellow man and everything like that. But I liked it a lot. Good space opera. I actually think I'll like the second book better than that one because that one was sort of an introduction one. Read the next book. Is this the Fall of Angels book? Hold on. Is this about Kreslin? Nope, got the wrong book. Anyway, I read basically the book before Fall of Angels, which I think is The Colors of Chaos by Modesitt. Read that. Reading through all the Modesitt books. Anita Blake, I've been reading the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series. Read Obsidian Butterfly. I read Narcissus in Chains by Laurel K. Hamilton. And Cerulean Sins. These are all part of the Anita Blake vampire hunting series. At Narcissus in Chains, it basically turns into a smut novel. And, you know, do I read smut? Well, yes I do, apparently. I bought the next book, so I will be continue reading her smut novels. But those are my soon to be read novels. What I'm reading right now is Brandon Sanderson's very thick tome, The Way of Kings. Brandon Sanderson wrote Mistborn and Elantris, and he also is finishing the Wheel of Time series. And he's a very good author. I like him a lot. I really like the Lancers. I kind of hope he kind of continues that particular story. But I picked up his new epic novel. It's so big. Oh my goodness. So I did read a few pages of this. Apparently I'm on page 12. And so far I'm enjoying this book. What else am I reading? Well, me and my girlfriend are still reading the Iron Druids, keeping along with that series, the Iron Druid series by Kevin Hearne. And this next book, again, very funny. I totally would recommend this if you're looking for something light. I'm also currently reading the Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook, because although I go every week to play Magic, there's not always somebody there to play Magic with on my casual nights. And I don't really want to play competitively. I'm just not a competitive player. And they have a Dungeons and Dragons group, so rather than wait around and do nothing, I've decided to get into Dungeons and Dragons. And I played a Ranger, and now I'm playing a Druid. And so, yeah, I'm reading this. And for anybody who is interested in this sort of thing, is that reading large game manuals are very similar to almost reading to technical manuals in a sense, because although they're designed to be entertaining and fun and sort of an escape from, you know, what you're doing, you know, all the character stats and abilities and everything like that, it's very almost technical in nature. But I am reading that currently. On my short list to be read is, again, the Trudi Canavan's next book, Mission. I'm also have the Iron Druids next book, Hammered. Me and my girlfriend will probably be reading this together while we cook dinner and things like that. I got the next book in the Human Parallax, Humans, by Robert J. Sawyer. I got the next book in basically the Honor Harrington series, which was Basilisk Station. That was the space opera by David Weber, Baen Publishing, and I got the next book. I really enjoyed it, so I'll be reading this shortly. I kind of got into this a little bit because I did finish Modesitt's second book. This is the third book in the Recluse series, The Magic Engineer by L.E. Modesitt Jr., and I will be reading this. Also, once I get done with that Dungeons and Dragons book, I have basically the Heroes of Forgotten Kingdoms, which tells me about character classes, Druids and Rangers, and since that's who I played so far, I borrowed this book. I'll be reading that. I've also got borrowing the Player's Handbook number 2, so be reading up on that once I get done thing. For new things that I'm going to be starting, book 1 of the Rainwild Chronicles by Robin Hobb. I've read all of Robin Hobb's Farseer's trilogies, which included like basically 3 trilogies. So I really like Robin Hobb. I'll be reading this one. Robin Hobb also has a book 1 of the Soldier Sun trilogy. This book is called Shaman's Crossing. I like Robin Hobb. I'll be reading this book shortly. I've read some Carol Berg. She's a little bit different in that her characters are very non-cliche. And I picked up basically book 1 in the College Magica, The Spirit Lens. So I'll be reading that. And I picked up book 1 in the Night Angel trilogy by Brent Weeks. This book's called The Way of the Shadows. So once I finish with Brandon Sanderson's epic tome, what would I probably read next? I'll probably read the David Weber book next, and then probably the Humans, or maybe the Trudi Canavan's Mission. But anyway, 20 minutes long, yeah, but I've been reading. So how many books have I read in the last 3 months? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So yeah, I've read 19 books in the last 3 months. Don't know when I'll have my next book review. I was going to do Recluse all the way through, and I'll probably still do that. Although, what book did I read? So, Magic Recluse, Towers of Sunset was the book I read. And it features Kreslin. the character Kreslin, and sort of his escape from a matriarchal society. And so I will be reading that book again so that I can do a proper book review about it. But I do really like Modesitt. He's probably still my favorite author. Though Trudi Canavan is getting pretty close, just because I really like her style. And Modesitt Jr. is probably my favorite author because of the way that he deals with both first person and third person writing, and the way that he gets the senses of both when he's writing first person versus third person, and vice versa. And I also really like his sort of geopolitical nature and his system of magic, so I'll be reading those. Anyway, so sorry I took up so much of your time, but if you enjoyed it, like the video, thank you for watching. I do appreciate it, and I hope you have fun. Take care. Mouse.